So one of the things which we do is we always try and dig below the surface. I'll try and explain why, and hopefully we'll have enough time to actually try this. One of the issues is, in this new world environment, people find it difficult to get to the root cause of things. Most of us who were trained in the old world environment, we were brought up on the assumption that there were things called correct answers, and they lasted forever. Think about my horizontal lines. Which means we have what we call either-or thinking in our heads. Either-or thinking means Eddie says something, you agree. That's fine, we're both right. Eddie says something, you disagree. Now it gets very interesting. You're right, therefore Eddie must be wrong. Or Eddie's right, therefore you must be wrong. And heck, you're not wrong, therefore Eddie must be wrong. Are you with me? So when you go to a meeting and you sit around the table and there's a problem and everyone's putting forward their ideas, they say, oh, why can't we get these contracts? Somebody says, oh, well, it's because we're not getting the bids early enough. Somebody says, no, it's because we don't write them fast enough. Somebody says, no, because we haven't got the right legal structure. All three people think they've got the right answer. Is it possible that all three of them are correct? Is it also possible that all three of them are wrong? That's either-or thinking. And people leave after that meeting and do what? What they were going to do before. Because in their minds, I'm right, you're wrong. Yeah? Now what that means is it becomes really critical to always get below the surface. We call that and thinking. And there's a technique called gap analysis, which I'm going to demonstrate on the screen, just so that you can think about it. When you see a problem, never leap at it. Always dig deeper to try and understand. The technique involves other people, and usually what I do is I do it with post-its. I'll do it on the screen just so you get a feel. But we've got an issue like, I don't know, we're not closing enough deals, we haven't got enough support, maybe, I don't know, whatever it is, okay? That's what's known as a gap. A gap is a sentence which describes the difference between where you are and where you'd like to get to. The example I've got up here, which I'm going to walk you through, is one which I had with Cadbury Schweppes. John Sunderland was involved in a process where he told the city he was going to grow through good growth. And he told the city this, then he got back to the office and went, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? Okay? And as a result of that, I got involved in part of that process. And what they said was Cadbury Schweppes, significant organization, very old, innovation not necessarily at that time at the forefront of what they were trying to do. In other words, our level of innovation is too low. Okay? Well, that's fine, but you can imagine, if people didn't understand, they'd go rushing off doing innovation creativity workshops. That's not the problem though, is it? Or is it? The problem which presents itself to you is rarely ever in the new world the real problem, because remember, it will change faster than you can learn. So the first thing which is at the top of your mind is probably rubbish. You with me? Okay, so the question we ask ourselves is, and the way I did this in practice and the way you do it in practice, you get everyone to agree on the gap, then you hand out post-its to everyone and you say, okay, let's just walk our way through it. If we don't fix it, what will happen? You get everyone to write down one sentence on what will happen if it's not fixed and slap it up there. In their case, what they came up with was that if it wasn't fixed, if it wasn't fixed, they'd have few products in the market, competitors would look better, sales would decline, profits would go down, and they'd get bought up. So you collect all the posts and put them up there. So now everyone knows it's a real problem. Got everyone's attention. Then we say, well, what happens if we fix it? And this is the positive bit, the vision bit you were talking about. What happens if we fix it? In their case, again, post-its round, capture them, up there. We'll have products people want to buy, customer sat will go up, we'll be diverted for day-to-day activities, revenues will go down, marketing budget will go down, profits will go down, but then they'll go up afterwards. You with me? Those aren't the interesting parts. The interesting part to me is, why not fixed yet? And you hand them out again, and this time people get thoughtful. I wish we had time to do it. You'll notice they get really thoughtful. And they came up with a whole bunch of things here, like hierarchy won't let you do anything which isn't your boss's. People don't know where to look for stimuli. There's no easy way of checking if an innovation is any good. Are you with me? We don't focus our efforts here. We focus them on these ones at the bottom here. That's where we'll make the difference. So the thinking of a leader in a fast-changing world is different from the leader who's building on their experience. You understand? Because you have to learn and you have to explore. And if you're not learning and exploring, chances are you're misleading people. The other thing you do is also you focus on what we call emotional engagement. You try to make sure people come along with you really, really well. Now, that's part of the process of making sure that what you deliver gains momentum. Have you noticed that as we've been going through this session, I keep mixing stories and statements and stories and statements? Have you noticed me doing that? Why do you think I'm doing that?
Engagement.
I'm playing a trick on you. Absolutely, engaging you. Let me let you on a secret. Does anyone, no, not enough grey hair here. Does anyone here remember 4.5 million years ago? I was there, okay. 4.5 million years ago, when you went around the offices of Bernardo's, what you found was not people sort of saying, I'm a regional manager. No, they were all called hunter-gatherers. That was what they did for a living. They go out hunting and gathering. Now, if you're a human being and you're a hunter-gatherer, this is called bad business. Do you know why? Because quite simply, human beings don't have any of the defense mechanisms other animals have. Dogs have got jaws, cats have got claws. Human beings, none of those things. So if you went for a day of hunter-gathering, there was a good probability you yourself would get eaten by something else. Do you see the problem? So a piece of software is written and stuck in your neck, just about here, to protect you. Do you know what that software does? As you go out hunting and gathering, okay, it checks for change. It goes, is everything the same? Is everything the same? Is everything the same? Relax. You with me? Because is everything, that's what it's doing. And when everything's the same, it relaxes. What about if it says, is everything the same? And then all of a sudden the ground shakes and the birds fly into the air. Do you know what instantly they did? Run. How did they know they should run? The software kicked in. And the software does its thing fantastically. What it basically does is, it says, ugh! Okay? It says something horrible has changed. Locally to me. And it assumes that change is a threat to your security, and the first thing it does is it switches your logic circuits off. Why is it important to have your logic switched off? You haven't got time to think. Thank you. The people who, when the ground was shaking, they went, oh, I wonder what that is. Is it Brontosaurus a raptor? I don't know. Should we get together and discuss it? They're all dead. They're extinct. You with me? We Hikos ancestors ran away. Logic off. Second thing it does is it then switches all your emotions on. Woomph. Yeah? Usually fear. Pumps you full of drugs, legal ones. And then usually what happens at that point is people run away. Then later, when they get their breath back, do you know what they did at that point? The drug level went down, the emotional level went down, they felt less frightened, and the logic came back on. And then they discuss it. We could have killed it with our pointy sticks. I'm not sure. What about that? You with me? Now, you told me leadership was required because of change. If you take people into changing environments and you surprise them, I want you all to double your sales by tomorrow, etc. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to go into this. You must have gone into a meeting recently where somebody announced something, surprised you with something. These days we're sophisticated. You didn't leap up and run out of the room, did you? You sat there, but your stomach was, ooh, and your palms were all sweaty. Did that happen to you? Yes? Okay. We get the same response. And then when you start to try and speak, what you discover is your logic circuits are off. And that's why in the car driving home, you always say, I wish I'd said. You with me? So what we've got there is effectively a really key thing which stops people moving forward. So if you're going to lead people and you go around surprising them or trying to challenge them, basically they'll go into this mode here and they'll react to you emotionally. If someone's reacted to you emotionally, can you win with a logical argument? No, it doesn't work, does it? Try it at home. Your other half says, you don't love me. Say, yes, I do. I can prove it. I remembered your birthday. Does it work? No. You give them a hug. The only thing which beats emotion is another emotion. Yeah? So you give them a hug. Problem at work, you can't go around hugging people. They'll fire you. And anyway, some people are hairy and smelly. You don't want to hug them. So what happens at work usually is we generally use fear. If we don't change, we'll all disappear. We won't be able to provide good service to the children and all the rest of it. We use fear. Fear is great, but it makes people cunning, not creative. If you want to lead them through it, you have to avoid this. And the way I've been avoiding this, going through this session with you, is basically using a very, very simple technique, which is designed to try and get you engaged. And the technique is called issue. That was a bit fast. Issue, data, question, build. Okay, I say, did you ever have a situation where you went into a meeting and somebody announced something? Yeah. And they announced it and you felt a bit of example. Yeah. And what did you do? You run out of the room. Issue, data, question, build. Using that technique, I can actually get you to come along with me without frightening you. Do you understand? Because I'm engaging the creative part of your brain. The creative part of your brain works because the brain uses up all the energy. So the hunter-gatherers always struggled to be full because the brain was using all the energy. So part of the software in your brain says, if you come up with an idea, try and turn it into food. So if I go issue data and I ask you a question, the moment you start to answer that question, you get engaged in what you're trying to achieve. There's nothing you can do about it. When I asked you your hopes and fears, at that point you got interested in this session, whether you liked it or not. My hopes and fears, no? Now you've told me your hopes and fears, imagine I ignore them. Do you think I'd be in more trouble or less trouble than if I hadn't asked you? You've told me. You expect me to deliver to it. Do you understand? This is a technique which is really key in terms of how to move things forward. I guess the other thing I want to pick up on is behavior. Leaders behave in a really, really different way from the rest of us.